Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, Occult Detectives and AI Detectives. It's my weekly wrap-up. So I'm filming this early on Saturday morning because I've got quite an exciting day planned today. So every year in the town I live in, there's a literary festival that runs in the early autumn called Wordfest. For the last 3 years, there's been a crime element to that. So there's been a day or two dedicated to crime fiction. They call that Fatal Shore. So for the first time, I haven't managed to make it in previous years. For the first time this year, I'm going along to that. So it's a day of panels with British crime writers talking about different elements of crime fiction. So really looking forward to it. Looking through the list of authors, there aren't actually that many I've read, and I've tried to correct that this week. So one of the books I'm going to talk to you about today is by one of the authors who's speaking today. But I will report back on that. I may just report back in this video next week, or I may do a dedicated video on it if there's interesting stuff that's been said that I want to discuss. So anyway, really looking forward to that. So normal content then for this video. So I'll talk about what I've read this week and then talk about what's coming on the channel and what's been on the channel. It's not been a great reading week for me. So I finished 4 books and 3 of them I didn't really like that much. One of them was great, and I'm currently reading a couple of things that I'm really enjoying as well. But yeah, 3 kind of duds for me this week, which is unusual. So the first of those duds then was the final novel by Patricia Highsmith, Small G, A Summer Idyll, which was very different from most of Highsmith's books. So, I've talked about her books a lot on the channel. I've been doing this read-through of all of her novels. This is like the end of that. And I've really enjoyed the vast majority of the books I've read by her. This one I didn't enjoy at all. Apparently, it was kind of a first draft, so it was only published 10 years after she died. And it definitely felt like it could have been more refined and better. And it's different in style from most of her books as well. So it's not a kind of crime thriller. It's more of a drama. So about a group of friends, one of whom is HIV positive and centred around this bar called Small G. So I really didn't enjoy it that much. I didn't connect with the characters. I didn't connect with the story, and it left me feeling like I had nothing to say about it. It just didn't leave an impression on me at all. So that was the first thing I finished. The second thing then for Occult Detective October was a light novel, Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture, Volume 1, Folklore Studies. This was okay. But I didn't love it. So it's 3 stories about this guy who is a university professor who investigates local folklore and urban legends and things like that. He has a student who partners up with him, who, for reasons which I don't think are ever really explained, can detect when people are lying. So when people lie, their voices sound different to him. So that gives kind of an extra element to it. So there's 3 different stories effectively in this. The first one is kind of introducing the characters. The second one is just a standalone case really, which was probably the most interesting story. And then the third one introduces new elements about the professor's personality and his background and things like that, which I felt were completely unnecessary. So overall, I wasn't a huge fan of this. I have read and talked about on the channel actually the manga version of this, which I slightly preferred, but yeah, it wasn't a big hit for me. So next up then, I read the book that is by one of the authors I'm seeing today. So that is In the Blink of an Eye by Jo Callaghan. So this book made quite a big splash. It was been very, very successful. It won the Thixton's Old Peculiar Best Crime Novel of the Year award this year. I didn't think it was that great, if I'm honest with you. So it's got an interesting concept, and I can see why it's been successful just because of that concept, because it's a very topical one. So the concept is that a kind of old school British copper, a detective, gets partnered up with an AI to investigate crimes. So the idea is the police want to do a pilot about how they can make law enforcement more efficient. So they're using this AI to, analyze data and things like that. But the AI has a personality. It has an avatar, so a holographic image of itself. So it actually gets involved in questioning of witnesses and things like that. So it's it is an interesting concept, but I just found overall that the book didn't really work for me. The mystery element of it I didn't think was great. There are some good characters. It's very readable. There's a bit of humour, there's a bit of emotion and things like that. But the actual mystery I didn't enjoy, and I felt like the use of the AI felt like gimmicky. It didn't really feel properly integrated with the story. So I'm going to do a full review of this, probably coming this week on the channel. But yeah, didn't love it, I'm afraid. After that then, for Occult Detective October, I read Occult Detective Magazine Mythos Special 2. So Occult Detective Magazine, always enjoy it, always a very reliable source of interesting and enjoyable occult detective short stories. This was no exception. So I had a bunch of different short stories, mostly in the occult detective subgenre. Some of them felt a bit more kind of tangential to that, but all really enjoyable and all have elements of kind of mythos. So either kind of Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythos or like references to The King in Yellow by Robert W. Chambers, things like that. So a really fun collection of stories. I particularly enjoyed two towards the end. So there's one at the end which is a humorous one called Beyond the Wall of Sheep, so playing on the Lovecraft title Beyond the Wall of Sleep, which was really fun. And there's another one which I forget the name of now, which was about two pilots who go up against like creatures and other dimensional type stuff. So that was really fun as well. So yeah, another solidly enjoyable collection from the fellows at Occult Detective Magazine. Really enjoyed it and always look forward to reading their stuff. So thank you very much to Dave Brzezinski, who's one of the editors who sent me this. So that was definitely my hit of the week. In terms of what I'm currently reading then, so I'm continuing to listen to Shogun by James Clavell. I feel like I've been listening to it for months. I'm currently not even 30% of the way through, but I am really enjoying it. I have to say, so it's, as you probably know, it's the story of this British sailor who washes up in or gets shipwrecked in Japan and kind of becomes part of society and becomes involved in a kind of battle, a battle of wills, a battle for power between like rival forces. I'm enjoying the elements that are kind of about the kind of clash of cultures, if you like. So this sailor and how he becomes part of Japanese society and his reaction to Japanese society. I'm enjoying that much more than the kind of political intrigue side of things. But it's definitely an enjoyable read, albeit a very long and very slow one. So we'll be continuing to read that probably for the rest of the month. I suspect I'm not even going to finish it this month. I suspect I'll still be reading it next month. The other thing I'm currently reading then, which I just started last night, is this, What We Talk About When We Talk About Crime by Jennifer Fleetwood. So this is a non-fiction book. I wouldn't call it true crime. It's more a book about the way crime is reported on and discussed in society. So it's a series of essays on that topic. Really interesting so far. So I've only read the first two, but those were both great. It's definitely British, so it focuses on cases and stories which are probably familiar or will be familiar to Brits out there in the audience who are watching, but may not be familiar to people outside of the UK. So the first thing she talks about is Howard Marks, who published an autobiography, Mr. Nice, in the 90s, which was like a huge success. So he was a drug smuggler, so she talks about his case and in particular like the stories he told about himself, how he portrayed himself in the book and how he portrayed his crimes in the book. And then the second essay is about Shamiba Begum, who was a British teenager who joined ISIS. So again, a really, really interesting case, and the way her narrative was told in the UK media at the time is like really interesting, really horrible. I mean, you know, she was completely pilloried in the UK media, and you know, this is someone who, you know, her crime, if you like, of fleeing the UK to join ISIS was committed when she was 15. So she was a child when she did this, and she's never been forgiven by the British media. So a really interesting series of essays so far. I'm enjoying this very much indeed. I'll probably get this finished today or tomorrow, and we'll report back in more detail on it in this video next week. So in terms of channel stuff then, so in the last week you've had my review a video where I talked about what I thought Amazon should do with the Colour Kindle, which was a rumoured device at the point that I put the video up. I think 2 days later they announced the new Colour Kindle, the Kindle Coloursoft, which they didn't pay any attention to my recommendations in that video, surprisingly enough. So I had suggestions about what I thought they should do with that device. They haven't done any of those things. So I think I'm going to do a video the week ahead where I talk about my reaction to the Kindle Color stuff, what I think of it, what I think it sounds like as a device. So anyway, you had that video. You had my review of The Flesh Eaters by L.A. Morse, an early and quite interesting extreme horror book. You've had my video on my 10 favourite authors right now, and then a video where I talk about 6 tips to read more that were published in the Guardian newspaper, so kind of my reaction to that. In the week ahead then, so that reaction to the Colour Kindle, an announcement for a reading challenge, which is always announced at this time of year, so you may be able to guess what it is. Let me know in the comments if you think you know what it is. I'm going to do a video where I look at I think it was 78 most popular horror books on Goodreads over the last 5 years, so my reaction to those and which ones of them I've read. And then also a review, as I said, of In the Blink of an Eye by Jo Callaghan. So yes, that's what's been on the channel and what you can expect on the channel in the next week. Anyway, I will leave it there and say, as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.